Exciting first half of action here in Week 15. I know a lot of people are very excited about Brashad Perryman's 2 touchdowns.
Girl. I did not mention him during Fantasy Damage because you threw so much shade on the Yahoo Fantasy Football podcast that I was like, all right, fine.
When have you ever let me throwing shade get in your way?
Fair. There was so much damage to discuss in Week 15. We didn't get to Perryman, but there's your outside receiver.
There you go. Justin Watson, nowhere to be found. Let's hit up our chat room. Of course, remember, you can chat along with us. We are paying attention to you, whether you're on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. We are along the ride with you. And it looks like a lot of people, I don't remember what the hell the prompt was for this show. Oh, what lineup mistake are you kicking yourself about? Perfect. A couple of people are definitely upset that they did not follow the Brashad Perryman bandwagon. We have someone, oh man, this is brutal. Daniel Miller from Facebook said they started Darius Slayton when they have Terry McLaurin on the bench. Ooh. We did talk about with Nate Boyer on FFL that, McLaurin, and someone Instagram DM'd me right after my call to probably try to bench OBJ, and they said, would you bench him for Terry McLaurin? I have to admit, I was not brave enough to start McLaurin over Odell. Both in good matchups, volatile quarterback play, but I trust Baker Mayfield a little bit more than I do Dwayne Haskins at this point.
I think that's fine. And also, it is wonderful that this Ohio State teammate narrative is finally coming to fruition, but for a long time, it wasn't.
Yeah, it is what it is. A couple other people looks like Slayton hasn't done much, and Eli is kind of melting down a little bit in what might be his last home start.
Not? With every single last week, it's his final. Enough. He's not. Daniel Jones, I don't think is coming back for the rest of the season. Do you, Matt?
That is the thing. No,
No.
I don't think so. This was the thing, because I actually liked watching Eli Manning a little bit in the first half.
You liked last week?
Last week.
You liked watching it on mute though.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I just couldn't do with the sanctimonious, everything that he did needed to be celebrated, because it's don't blow it all here, because we're going to be seeing Eli for the rest of the way, most likely. And I hope that this is, I hope this is the last time we see him. He's not that fun to watch at this point anymore, but it is what it is. Looks like a couple people are definitely upset about Ryan Tannehill over Jameis Winston. I will say I definitely advocated for that as well. And it was ultra tilting in the first half of that game. Some random goofball tight end, he goes and he has a slant pass secured right at the goal line. Texans player pops it up. Whitney Merciless catches it, runs it back for a good bit.
The other tight end, Johnny Smith, is the one who finally tackles Whitney Merciless.
I got Tannehill running in a couple leagues, but
this is kind of the lesson, right? Last week I was leaning into this and I wasn't right, and that is, would you be that surprised if Ryan Tannehill is the Ryan Tannehill we always have known him to be at some point?
I want to kind of flesh that discussion out a little bit, because I think, look, it was bound to regress at some point. He was number 1 in yards per attempt, passer rating, adjusted yards per attempt. All these stats were bound to regress. But I don't know if we're going to see the Ryan Tannehill of old. Because Ryan Tannehill would have these moments where he was pretty good, and then would be pretty average. But if you're the Titans, what do you do with Ryan Tannehill? I think you can't not bring him back, but how do you do it?
Well, okay, so we have the entire second half to answer some of this question, but I think
the rest of the season.
Right. Well, to me, no, the second half, because this is a matchup that has playoff implications. This is a high-stakes matchup. Now, you could say every game is a must-win game and roll your eyes at the whole adage of using that as a phrase, but our issue with Ryan Tannehill has always been that he melts in high-pressure moments, and the part of the fun of watching him this season is that he was playing without stakes, that he was throwing his body all over the field, that he was winning over the receivers in the locker room, right? Well, now he's in his head a little bit, and we can see that happening, and that has always been the issue with Ryan Tannehill, and you can say you're surrounding him with plenty of weapons, and you've seen this Texans defense go up and down. I think when you are dealing with a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, there is a volatility involved, because he is not, I'm thinking about Kirk Cousins in previous seasons. This is a player who can get very flustered and melt. So if you're at the Titans, then you just have to hope that Derrick Henry and his hamstring will hold through and remain the engine of your offense.
Yeah, I agree with you that I do think, though, the Week 17 game against
the Texans
same
again.
Texans team,
Yes.
like that's going to be huge. So I don't think it's just the second half, but this is a good like narrative setting performance. I bet we probably end up seeing that game on Sunday Night Football. So you want to talk about like in Week 17, want to talk about a pressure-packed moment. I think that is when we're going to have a lot of our questions answered. Kenny Stills is having a great game on people's benches. Kevin from Facebook points out. That's just like, what are you going to do, you know? What are you going to do?
I mean, you still got Will Fuller out targeting Kenny Stills, right? And we have a whole half left of this game. So I'm not completely discouraged. Would it be that surprising if Will Fuller rips off a touchdown at some point in the third or fourth quarter? No. And also the people who are using A.J. Brown, let's not forget that part of the reason Tannehill's stats have been so money is because of Brown's after the catch ability padding them. And he's already seen 7 targets converted. 4 of those for 82 yards. Come on, he's averaging 20 yards per reception.
You know what the problem is? The problem is the rest of the team. I got the box score pulled up on the laptop right now, and I'll pull up a tweet in a second that I think is pretty funny. We've got Corey Davis, 3 targets, 1 catch.
Yeah, who cares?
Tajay Sharp, 1 for 1. Sure. Anthony Ferkster, my guy that dropped that touchdown, 4 for 1. So it's the rest of the team that there's just not a lot of conversion there.
But don't we always love in fantasy that means there's a narrow volume available to A.J. Brown?
Yes. Oh, for sure. It just
you can't have one.
that,
I mean, you can't have. And this is a situation where you cannot necessarily have both things, especially in an offense that is not particularly prolific via the air.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's just really just bad news for the quarterback because there's not a lot of options to play.
Yes.
Funny tweet from one of our social editors, Kendall at Kendall Freer. Kendall, she's been stepping up the Twitter game recently. She's fun.
She's been fire on the social media handles all season.
I would just say she's taking her game to the next level. She's making the leap, from good to great, you know. But anyways, I love this tweet here. I switched Winston out for Tannehill last second, and she's pouring herself a nice cup of bleach there as a result. Good bleach drinking.
I'm playing against her, so I don't mind.
You don't care. Oh, well, hey, that's
it's working out for me.
Yeah, in other news, I mean, what else has got your attention from the first half of these games? Urban Meyer, by the way, at Washington to witness his 2. Talk about just another narrative. I think Dwayne Haskins has 2 touchdowns.
That's the Ohio State connection we talked about. Urban Meyer should be at the Dallas game a little bit later because he's eyeing Jason Garrett's job. Although I think that's probably going to be more Lincoln Riley unless they promote with it. But I'm sure we'll talk Cowboys in our next halftime show.
We will do that. Best decision someone made was to bench Carson Wentz for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitz magic, as the GIF says here. Fitzpatrick, by the way, became the Dolphins' leading rusher today. We heard that stat on the red zone.
I mean, we said they couldn't run the damn ball. Dolphins cannot run the ball. It is impossible.
The best part is that he replaced the team's previous leading rusher, Mark Walton, who, of course, hasn't been on the team in like a couple of months.
He's not employed.
He's not employed anywhere in the NFL because not a great dude.
Yeah.
In other news, have you watched much of this? Seen much from this Bears-Packers game? Because I saw a couple of nice Trubisky passes. I saw Anthony Miller doing some things. But this is a pretty big fantasy game. People have a lot of guys in there. I know you weren't high on Allen Robinson going in. That's looking like a pretty good call right now. He has just 1 catch for 9 yards. Anthony Miller, as I mentioned, the leading receiver, 2 for 39.
Well, that was the issue, right? Like, the issue with Robinson was not his skill set. I do think Jair Alexander is quite a good cornerback, but the issue was more volume because you're going to see a lot of Dave Montgomery and Anthony Miller in this one, and Miller is, in fact, leading the receiving corps in looks. Allen Robinson's only gotten 1 target so far. Yeah, and ain't a damn thing going on in either backfield. The only player over 20 yards rushing in the game is Mitchell Trubisky. Gross.
Judy from Facebook says, I still want to know if Josh Jacobs is playing today. I can't believe that there's a Raider on your fantasy team. Well, Josh Jacobs has been pretty damn good. He got a pretty damn good matchup today, and it looks like Josh Jacobs is going to play, so I think you're good to roll him out as you'd expect.
I mean, you're worried about workload here.
Sure.
You're going to play him because the matchup is incredible. I mean, Jacksonville is a defense that has just completely laid down all over the place, especially, I would say, on the heels of the Jalen Ramsey trade. They've significantly gone on.
Yeah. Well, when you pretty much give your team permission to pack it in. If you
there was a moment where the run defense, I mean, they still have some nice pieces there, but it has certainly fallen apart. So the matchup is good for Josh Jacobs, but I'm interested to see how many snaps he gets and how much he's on the field for. And we know that he's not seeing a lot of action through the passing game. DeAndre Washington, however, had that duality and would have been such a great waiver wire pickup had Josh Jacobs sat. So I would still manage your expectations. Because of the matchup, I'm going to put him as like a low-end running back too, but not fully healthy. And is a shoulder issue. He missed last week. This is a moment where if you have a flex position, I hope you started someone with a higher ceiling, like Will Fuller, who's doing nothing. So what do I know?
Well, here or there. Look, I like this question Jason sent us from Facebook. With Ryan Tannehill sinking his ship, so in a little bit of a hole already, should he go with Cooper Kupp or Raheem Mostert in the flex? Now, I think right away, to me, it would seem that Mostert is the better play. I think you can lock him in for more volume, more touches, etc. But Kupp, I do think, even if he's not going to be on the field a ton, I think he might have the better ceiling just matchup-wise because of how bad Dallas is at covering.
If you're chasing points, I would start Kupp.
Yeah, I think he probably has that bigger potential to hit. If this game turns into a point-for-point shootout, which I don't necessarily
anticipate that happening, but it could. We also didn't anticipate New Orleans and San Francisco going the way it did last week either.
Right. And see, that's actually, as we're talking about it, kind of gives me hesitation too, because I think that this game with the Falcons and the 49ers has a decent chance to shoot out, because we know Atlanta's defense sucks and the 49ers are so banged up that actually, as we're sitting here talking, I think Mostert.
Yeah, but Mostert isn't. You also have Burita in the mix, and he's always good to rip off a 40-yard touchdown. You never know if that's not going to happen. And Tevin Coleman could be the goal line guy. He certainly did get more goal line looks than Burrito when Burrito was healthy previous to this latest injury.
Yeah, so we're no help, because I think
I would still say Kupp. I mean,
I think that
at a certain point, you got to toss a coin and go for it and just lean into what you got. And I would say Cooper Kupp has a larger body of work and still remains, to a certain degree, Jared Goff's security blanket. And so I'm going to look at the larger sample size and think that's your best chance.
I think that makes some sense there, especially when we're looking at that ceiling perspective. Anthony from Facebook has a question here, starts a question, and I want to take this one, number one, because you've got some great prayer and football emojis, but also brings us back to a game that I want to continue to discuss. Stephon Diggs or D.D. Westbrook in the later games. Now, we said last week, D.D. Westbrook's not a thing. Stop trying to make that happen. But D.J. Chark ruled out. He's not going to play in this game. Bad Raiders secondary. Are you chancing it? I will say personally, I'm not going to do it.
I am chancing it.
All right.
I have to chance it. In my Dynasty League, it's Week 15, and I have D.D. Westbrook in as my flex because I need the volume, and I am sitting him in favor of, in fact, Chris Connolly, who, it's almost certain that...
This was very popular over here.
Sorry, guys. It's almost certain that Chris Connolly or Keelan Cole is going to have a big game, right? Because that's just what happens. But I think it looks like D.D. Westbrook is the safer of these picks, especially in a PPR-friendly format.
Yeah, I think, that does make some sense. I still can't resist Diggs' ceiling. 17 yards per catch this year, career high.
Even with Adam Thielen back?
Even with Adam Thielen back, I still think if you're looking for big plays in the Vikings passing game, I think that's it. And the Chargers, they're really good at defending outside wide receivers, but they do struggle tackling. That's been a problem all year. He's great after the catch. He's made a lot of big plays after the catch this year. That's part of that 17 yards per reception. But back to that Jacksonville-Oakland game, how do you see this one playing out? Because I think there's a chance it could be really high scoring because both of these defenses are so bad, and there's enough offensive talent, especially if you squint really hard, that you can see on both sides. But look, it could be a real disaster for the Jaguars, especially. I think they could. I don't know if I totally want to go into the narrative, but it is the last game in Oakland. I think that crowd is going to be hyped to send the Raiders off, and I think that the Jaguars, because they're so bad on the offensive line and they're missing their best wide receiver, it could be a bad situation.
What is the thing that Oakland's defense does best, right? They're not a good defense overall, no.
Stop the run.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what do the Jaguars want to do?
Run the football.
Establish the run. Correct. So that, even if the Raiders do show up, the strength of their defense is stopping the run, which is going to force Gardner Minshew to put the ball in the air, which we know he is not afraid to do.
Yeah, I hear you. I think there could be those big plays. It's just Gardner Minshew continues to show that I think he can play in the league and be, a really good backup at worst, because every time he gets the ball, he's under siege immediately. He's got to think about, before he gets to his second read, making the first pass rush or miss.
Sure.
And it's not like the Raiders have a great pass rush. Max Crosby looks like a hit as one of their later round draft picks. Cleveland Farrell, not as much, but like I still think that the Raiders might have enough of a pass rush with guys like Crosby, Maurice Hurst to put a little pressure on Minshew and turn this game around. I still think.
Yeah, I just don't see Derek Carr being able to he's going to have to fight back. I mean, Derek Carr is such a check down Charlie sort of player, and he doesn't have Hunter Renfrow. He's got Tyrell Williams, who he is reluctant to target, and Darren Waller. And we know, as I said earlier, Josh Jacobs isn't getting any looks in the passing game.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that I don't have to tilt Tyrell Williams today because I could play Jared Cook in my flex over him. Just a few more minutes here. We'll take this question from Matthew Lofton from Facebook. I think it's a pretty easy one. Running back Todd Gurley or Austin Eckler with a couple of light emojis. I think you got to go.
Todd Gurley.
With Todd Gurley here. Yeah, for sure.
It apparently, Darius Slayton did score a touchdown.
There we go. There's a lot of people that were counting on Darius Slayton, so that is good news for us. Last question that we'll take, and then we'll jump out of here. And make sure you come back for the late game halftime stream as well. It's a quarterback question. Phillip Rivers or Dak Prescott today? Some Michael person from Twitter wants to know. They got the thinking emoji. Cute. Love it. I think I like Rivers more this week. I don't love trusting Phillip Rivers, to be honest with you, because I'm scared that he could get a lot of sacks. I mean, the Vikings have not gotten a lot of sacks lately, which is nice.
They haven't. The Chargers' O-line has been habitually banged up.
Not good in general.
This is also, quote, a home game, but not really a home game because we know those Midwesterners like to travel well. It's going to be a Vikings home game.
And a home game for the Chargers anyways.
But what the Chargers have going for them is the return of Derwin James.
Yep.
So, oh my gosh, do not start any Kyle Rudolph, especially knowing that piece of it. I think that's also going to limit Adam Thielen a bunch. So maybe your Diggs pick, although Casey Hayward is pretty good.
Chargers defense is kind of coming together.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. They're
Ingram's healthy. Bosa looks good.
Like they've been a bad defense on balance this year, and I still think they do have a tackling problem just at the linebacker level. But Bosa has been great all year. Ingram has been good when he's healthy. Derwin James is like a legit difference maker. And Casey Hayward, as you mentioned, very good too. So they have enough superstars on their defense to make this a problem for Minnesota.
And offensively, Phillip Rivers is now spreading the ball around much, much more. Mike Williams, who was a guy you hyped last week, right? Or did you have him this week? This week. This morning, in fact. It's been a long season.
It all runs.
And Hunter Henry has the athleticism. I don't think Hunter Henry scores in this one, but I do think he probably gets you 5 grabs for over 60 yards. I think I have him projected for 68. But his athleticism prevents you from benching him. And we know Austin Eckler can do things, and Melvin Gordon is great when they need to establish the run, although the Vikings run defense quite good. So I think when you look at all of the weapons at Rivers' disposal.
Yeah, a couple of stats on the Vikings defense since week 8.
You have a bunch of those.
Since week 8, they are just 24th in sack rate, and they give up the 7th highest yards per attempt, so they can be beaten deep, not getting a ton of pressure. I think that's good news for Phillip Rivers, and that's why it's good news for Mike Williams, as I said on FFL this morning. But that is going to do it for our early halftime stream. We will, of course, be back here at Yahoo Fantasy during the late games. Make sure you tune in, and of course, also make sure you subscribe to the Yahoo Fantasy Football Podcast, because we'll be breaking it down all things Week 15 tonight. We hope to see you all for both content events.
And don't forget to use that hashtag AskFFL and throw us some emojis as well.